if you worked on something, if you did anything, that could be writing a design document, it could be updating the documentation, it could be writing code that doesn't work, it could be writing code that does work. We would love to have you share your work with the group. If you do share your work with the group, you'll have a good chance of winning one of these lovely prizes. So I think I showed you these before, but there's a bunch of things, a bunch of food items here from San Francisco, and you'll have your choice of these. So the winning projects, each member of the winning projects will get to choose one of these wonderful 8 items.
Sure. So we did a little bit of work on the docs, things like replacing ZFS on Linux with OpenZFS. There's a couple of PRs now open related to this that Georgi, I think that's how you pronounce it, opened up on the github.io page. And then we also kind of rethought up of how to lay out the front page, and that's updated now too, so people can go check that out. And also there's I moved some projects or some features like channel programs, encryption, trim from projects to the features section in the website. So just, polishing the docs, basically, that's what we were doing. So I'm not gonna look at the history, but this is what the main page looks like now. It's a little different than what it used to be. Oh, I forgot to mention one other thing is the github.io. I don't remember where that, but we got FreeBSD install instructions into the github.io page. So this is actually pretty cool. Unfortunately, George or Georgi, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, isn't here right now. I had to go to sleep, but he whipped this up. And there was another pull request. I think this has to do with, the FreeBSD changes that we were talking about. So just converting this page to live in the OpenZFS repo.
Howdy, everyone. So I spent my day working on something that I've looked at in the past, but I've never really managed to make much forward progress on. And I was a little more successful this time. My plan was to try to get it so that we could add Rust code to the ZFS kernel modules, or have a separate kernel module in the ZFS tree written in Rust. This is basically just because I think Rust is neat. And also, I know that there's been some work by external people lately on getting Rust as part of the actual Linux kernel development process. I did not finish my project. I made some decent progress. I got it to the point where I could generate bindings that had ZFS functions in them. So as a test, I was making a separate kernel module that had ZFS debug message as a function that you could call. And then when the module was loaded, it would put a message into the ZFS debug message log. I was managing to successfully build the bindings for this, but unfortunately linking the actual complete kernel module together was being frustrated by some build problems that I was having and some symbols that weren't being resolved correctly. So I plan to keep working on this in the future, and hopefully one day maybe I could even post a pull request with make files and stuff.
Very cool.
Yep, this was a issue that I opened up a while back and has been sitting in my inbox doing nothing. We were running an application that used libzpool with the undefined behavior sanitizer, and it found a case where the shift exponent exceeded the size of the variable that it was being stored in. So used a suggestion from Matt and got that fixed and committed. And after mixing up my spaces and tabs, it's the PR is doing its thing, and hopefully we'll finish getting tested here pretty soon.
Awesome, thanks. Okay, next, Mark with DRAID.
Yep. So we spent a good part of the day first talking about the various issues and possibilities for Drate expansion. And then in true hackathon fashion, I hacked up, or we actually as a group hacked up the existing RAID-Z expansion design doc. And we now have, if I can find it in my space, a DRAID design doc. So the big issues that we were really discussing was, so there's a, what is the relationship between in RAID-Z expansion, you're really operating sort of at rows of a group at a time. With DRAID expansion, you're operating across entire sets of groups at a time because of the way DRAID is laid out. This changes things a bit and actually simplifies parts of it, because now you don't worry about dealing with the sort of partial groups or anything like that. You're pretty much be able to process entire group chunks at a time, and I think that's simplifies. But it also means that you are dealing with a larger sort of unit of flow at a time in the whole process of expanding. And so that fair amount of reserve space somewhere for scratch, so as you're working, you can keep your modifying copied aside, so in the event of a panic restore, you can recover it. And so believe we've decided that 2 rows, which are roughly 32 meg times the number of drives is the appropriate amount of space to reserve for expansion. And think that that's not an unreasonable amount of space to reserve from each drive. So it's 32 meg actually from each drive is space to reserve in order to allow for DRAID expansion. So that's going to be a question for the group in general, is what your feeling is about saying, all right, in order for expansion to be able to work in the future on a DRAID, I need to be willing to set aside 32 meg, say off the bottom of your drive, that's never going to be used for allocations in case I decide to add more capacity to this DRAID.
And if you don't like it, be prepared to let us know how much space is already being wasted.
Yes.
And why.
So, yeah, because 32 meg in any modern drive is pretty much negligible, but people feel strong about this stuff sometimes. So I'm going to make the DRAID design document is there's a lot here, mostly because there's a lot. I just, it's an easy job to replace RAID-Z with DRAID. It wasn't quite that easy, but this will be made available for people to take a look at as well and see what they think. That's it.
Awesome, thanks, Mark.
Yep.
Okay, it looks like I am up next. So I, besides helping out Mark and some other folks, I worked on trying to figure out how I want to make the videos for the OpenZFS Developer Summit, because we do not have a professional, thousands of dollars video production team this time. So I am doing it with iMovie, which I'm sure is like the worst tool for the job. But I thought I would show folks and also get feedback if folks have on kind of how I did this. So I just did it for George's right now, but I don't know if you can see or hear this at all over Zoom. But I basically did a little picture-in-picture, so you have the slides and then you have the person talking. It comes out, this way I can make the person talking video like larger than the way that it comes out of Zoom in higher quality. And then I can do things like at the end, like zoom in on him when he's just has his Q&A slides up. That's it.
Yeah, hi. So we've been working on trying to get a spreadsheet of the compatibility lists for basically every relevant system we could think of. My apologies if we missed anything that anyone here deems relevant. Please be sure to add it yourself or let us know so we can add it. So basically, we came up with this monstrosity that should have the features for most major releases, a FreeBSD, Illumas, ZFS on Linux, OpenZFS 2.0, then some specific distributions such as Ubuntu, RHEL, TrueNAS and FreeNAS, and we also have OS X here. We did not have Windows here, but I don't think that's going to be very relevant.
Yeah, I think
And
that
right
we
now-
decided that
right?
that Windows was not a tier 1 platform yet.
That helps too. So right now, all the features for the various platforms and releases should be mostly okay. And we're just trying to figure out our spreadsheet part of this to get this calculated automatically, because really nobody's going to have the patience to do this by hand. And that's about it.
Cool, very cool. Currently last on the agenda is Alan. If anybody else would like to present, then please add yourself to the spreadsheet. Take it away, Alan.
I don't know why when you start presenting your screen, it decides you don't want to unmute your microphone and hides the controls for that. Anyway, so after working with Pavel Doedek on his the cloning files thing during the early part of the day, when he broke for lunch, I picked up Jorgen's idea of making a flag for ZDB to make it copy a file out. So you could basically use ZDB to recover a file or whatever. So I wrote a little function called ZDB copy object, and basically on the command line, you can run ZDB with the flag. You tell it, here's the data set, here's the path to either the object number of the file or the object, or the path to it relative to the data set. And then the third parameter is some file that doesn't exist yet on your system. And it basically iterates through it using DMU read to pull out chunks of that file and write them to the destination you specified. It works, except for currently it rounds up to the block size and writes a bunch of zeros to the output file after the end of the content. I gotta improve the way we detect the size of the object. But outside of that, it actually works now. I skipped the part of actually switching ZDB to support long ops. That needs to be done, but I didn't want to, this only started working about 4 minutes ago. Moving myself below Matt on the presenter list was enough time to get it to work. So actually, I think if I stop sharing the code, I can actually show it working. This one. So I just do ZDB. I did -R for read for now until we hook up long ops and make it -CP or whatever. And then my data in my pool and data set, the path relative to that, and then the output path. I'm sorry, it's probably a bit small to read, but it then translates that relative path name into the object ID of the item.
Yeah. If you make your window a little small, if you make your window smaller, then it'll appear bigger for us. There, amazing.
Okay.
Yes, I can read it. Sorry to interrupt.
Yep, thanks for the tip. So yeah, when we just did ZDB-R dataset, path in the data set and then some output path. It looked up the object number and then does a series of DMU reads in up to 1 meg chunks and writes out to that file. And if we look at it, we see the source for the ZDB file, including the fact that it was more than just the first block. And it's all there, except for we don't cut off the end yet. So it's writing past the end of the file to the output at the moment of just null bytes. But you can see when you run the ZDB command, the problem is the file is 240 kilobytes and we're typing 256 kilobytes. We're writing 256 kilobytes to it. So I think the way I'm getting the size of the file is wrong at the moment. But once I fix that, it's almost ready for a pull request.
Very cool.
I was mostly reusing some of the bits of from the capital O flag of ZDB to do the translation of path relative to the data set to the object number, and dealing with the fact that ZDB only wants to have one object open at a time, and cleaning that up. But it does seem to work.
I was just impressed that there were still some letter options left to ZDB.
Not
that you
many.
didn't have to do like -% or something like that.
Yes.
All right, cool.
LS on FreeBSD has run out to the point where there's a dash comma.
Well, we haven't got there yet. Hopefully we'll adopt
Yes.
long ops before we get to that point.
Yes.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Alan. And I saw that as you were talking, Nahum, can you can you let us know how to pronounce your name, because I'm afraid I didn't do it right.
No worries, it's Nahum. I've been working on like various configurations that require a bootable ZFS pool, and Illumos has the -B flag for creating an extra 256 megs towards the beginning of the disk to leave room for the EFI file system. And a while back, looks like Brian Bellendorf tried to, probably successfully, it compiles, ported it over to somewhere and then abandoned it. And so I tried to pick it up and try again. And some functions had moved files. So there was some like, oh, this function is now in this other file that had to be cleared up. And since I'm not a C programmer, there was a static on a function that needed to be removed that Sarah helped me figure out. And Seraphim also helped me a bunch. So this would not have been done without their help. But I can compile this. I have not had a chance to test it yet, but hopefully I'll be able to sometime in the next day or two test it and confirm that it actually does work and doesn't break anything, and that can open up a PR. Yeah, so that's what I did.
Very cool, thanks. And it looks like that was our last project there. So, all right. I'm going to share my screen, reveal the winners. All right. In first place with 28% of the votes, Alan with ZDB-CP. Congratulations. So anonymous latecomer has tied it up between second and third. So second and third places are tied between the Alekin team with website and docs and Paul with the in-kernel Rust module. Awesome. So congratulations. The other favorited projects were Drate Expansion, feature compatibility lists, and EFI boot partition. Awesome. So thanks to everyone who participated. I hope that you got a chance to do something that you don't normally get to do and work with folks that you didn't normally get to work with. The winners, please get in touch with Karen, and the folks who worked on the website and docs, you feel free to define for yourselves who were the participants there. It looks like at least Alec, James and George. We have budget for multiple prizes per place. So all the participants will receive prizes, not just Alec. Awesome. So now I think we're closing this. I'll give you a reminder of what you're going to get to choose from.